The Sheriff's Office is made up of three divisions. We have the Detention Center that houses inmates who are awaiting trial and those who have been convicted of a crime and sentenced to 18 months or less. As part of the Detention Center run by Detention Center personnel, we have central booking.
Washington County is very big. It's over 400 square miles. You could be in Hancock and have to travel to Sandy Hook, and it's going to take you well over an hour.
It's in an L shape, which is not to our advantage in order to be able to protect the citizens of the county and have a very quick response. And that's where, when we have the municipal departments in the outlying areas, such as Hancock, for example, that central booking is so important. And central booking is basically a one-stop shop for law enforcement, where any police agency in the county that makes an arrest would transport that prisoner one time. The central booking officers would actually do all the processing, the medical screening, fingerprinting, photograph, and the officer only has to fill out a statement of probable cause and the demographics on that individual. And then they can leave and go back out on patrol.
Years ago, when I was working the streets or when I was working in narcotics, it was a long process. Now, an individual gets arrested, our guys can take them right over to our central booking unit, and it's almost like a stop and go. We benefit by getting guys back on the street, and the community benefits by getting the police officer back on the street.
And then we have the patrol division, which is the most visible. That's the law enforcement arm. And there are a number of units in the patrol division.
We have programs within our patrol division that deal with community service, deal with our gang units, deal with our criminal investigative units, deal with our traffic units. We have a school resource program, and our basic goal is to keep the citizens of Washington County safe. The backbone of Patrol Division are the shifts that are working the streets 24/7, answering calls for service, enforcing traffic laws, enforcing criminal laws. That is the backbone of our Patrol Division. If it's a very serious crime, we have detectives that are on call 24/7. They have more specialized training in forensics and interviewing techniques, interrogation techniques.
The investigation that we just demonstrated was recovering a stolen vehicle. We would photograph the vehicle first, and then we would process it for things like latent prints or DNA. We can pick up touch DNA from just about anything. And then we'll search the vehicle for other evidence as to who might have been in the vehicle or what the vehicle was used for while it was stolen. There are times during our investigations where we have to work with other local and federal agencies. Specific to bank robberies, we work with the Secret Service or the FBI.
It is a big effort by a lot of different agencies working together, and all with the common goal of making sure, number one, we're keeping the citizens of this county protected and safe, and number two, we're successfully prosecuting people that we did arrest, and that the cases are good cases and they're rock solid and no loopholes, and everybody's, again, working towards that common goal. For instance, a bank robbery with a weapon, and the suspect has done multiple bank robberies. The FBI will come in and we'll work hand in hand with those agencies to successfully prosecute. Our gang unit works with alcohol and tobacco firearms unit regularly.
We have right now approximately 750 known gang members in Washington County, and we have twice that number who are affiliated with them. We know who those individuals are. We have identified them.
We also have two intel analysts that are continuously looking, examining, trying to gather as much intel as possible about the gang members that are here in the county and how they're affecting us. And the intel guys are feeding it down to our narcotics agent and to our uniformed deputies to be able to pay attention to what criminal activity are, where are they living.
The other thing that the gang unit does is when a gang member is released from the detention center or the prison, is they go and pay them a visit and let them know that we know they're here and that we're going to be watching their every move. Even though we have a significant number of gang members in the county, the number of incidences that have occurred with gang violence has been extremely minimal. Oftentimes a gang member will be involved in drug activity, which is more or less how they finance their gang more so than committing crimes of robbery and use of a handgun in the commission of a crime and so forth. When a police officer first becomes a police officer, they go through 6 months of academy training. And then once they get out of the academy, there's actually a 4-month field training program that they go through where we assign that individual to a seasoned law enforcement officer. Each year after that, the Maryland Police and Corrections Training Commission requires a minimum of 18 hours of in-service training. The Sheriff's Office actually provides more than that. We will do a minimum of 40 hours.
And this year, one of our main objectives was to do an active shooter training. Our officers are trained not to sit back and wait for help to go into that school or to go into that building. They are trained now to immediately enter the building and confront the threat. That was a very important training for our school resource officers to have. In the nation with school shootings and so forth, the Washington County Board of Education and the Sheriff's Office has built a nice rapport, a nice relationship with the school resource officer program. We have an officer in every high school, primary school in this county now, except for Hancock, but Hancock has the Hancock Police Department.
Washington County Sheriff's Office and the Hagerstown City Police initiated a special response team, a SWAT team if you will, of highly trained individuals who are equipped to handle high-risk situations such as warrant services where we know that guns are involved, or if they've taken someone hostage, also they're trained to be able to negotiate with that individual and to oftentimes get them to release any hostages they may have. The special response team so far has been able to successfully resolve each incident without injury or death to any of the citizens or the SWAT team members themselves. We also implemented a program called DDAX, which is a data-driven approach to crime and traffic safety.
Examine crashes, which are accidents, and they examine crimes, and they look at both of those and they put both of them together. And what we realized, there's a correlation between the two of them.
Each one of our deputies throughout their day has to work 30 minutes in at least one of the DDAX zones. It's being visible so that we reduce the number of collisions. When people see a police officer, particularly when they have their emergency lights activated, they're less likely to speed, they're less likely to run stop signs and stop lights.
We've seen that it's actually reducing the amount of crime that's occurring and reducing the amount of accidents that's occurring in those areas. Traffic interdiction is taking a traffic stop one step further. Deputies are trained to take a look and say, you know what, is there something else going on in this car? Is there a possibility that some type of criminal activity may be going on? They are trained to understand to take the traffic stop and take it to the next step and do the interdiction part of it and look into what else is going on in that car. It could be a criminal interdiction with stolen merchandise in the car, maybe some type of narcotics in the car. If they have reasonable suspicion to believe that there may be some type of narcotics, they can take the interdiction part another step further and start talking to the individual they had stopped and find out where they're coming from, what they were doing.
Being part of the K-9 unit is very challenging. It's strange having to rely on an animal to do your job, but after you spend so many hours training with them and working with them, to see them hit the street and do what they're supposed to do and do what you've trained them to do is very satisfying. We use all positive reinforcement in our training. There's no hitting, there's no denying the K-9's food to get them to work. It's all positive reinforcement, and the entire experience of being a K-9 is a positive one. What we'd like the public to know is if you see a K-9 working, it's not a pet. It is a working animal, and while you might not get bitten if you come up, it could affect the working ability of the dog. So if you see a K-9 team out working on the street, it's okay to watch, take a look, but don't approach the K-9 and don't try to touch the K-9.
The Warrant Task Force was a concept that we looked at in 1999. At that time, the Hagerstown City Police Department was serving warrants with several officers. The Maryland State Police had officers who were serving warrants, and then the Sheriff's Office had people. And unfortunately what happened, oftentimes the city police had warrants for people who lived in the county. And in order for them to come out and serve the warrants, they would have to team up with either a sheriff's deputy or a trooper. So we got together and thought that, it would be a better concept if we worked as a team. As the sheriff, I swore in the 2 city police officers as special deputies so that they can now go out into the county and serve warrants just the same as a trooper or a deputy. We're able to prioritize the types of warrants that we concentrate on first. For example, we concentrate on felony warrants, trying to get the most serious criminals and the violent criminals off the street first. We do have a computer crimes unit here at the Sheriff's Office. Internet crimes is a huge issue. Not only people who are sharing child pornography, but people who are getting online and trying to meet children. We also conduct forensic examinations of computers that are seized as part of other types of investigations. For example, drug activities. Oftentimes a person will keep records on the computers. Individuals have to go to training every year, particularly to handle investigations involving smartphones and all the technological changes that have occurred with cell phones. We have to send our personnel to training on a regular basis. And then we have the Judicial Division, responsible for the security of the circuit courthouse, as well as securing all the courtrooms when court is in session. They also serve summonses, warrants, any paperwork that's issued by the courts also gets served by our judicial deputies. When I first took office as sheriff back in 2006, whenever an inmate was transferred to the circuit court, the transport van would have to park in an open alley. We found that was extremely dangerous, not only to the correctional officers, but to the inmates as well as to individuals that just happened to be visiting in the area.
Sometimes in some of the more sensitive cases, there was large congregations of people, both victims and defendants' families that were out there.
So what we did was we worked with the city of Hagerstown and we put in what's called a sally port. It's a secure area where the van can pull in, not visible to the public, has razor wire around the top, and the officers can then unload the vans in a secure environment, walk them down a walkway into a holding area or sally port area for all the inmates.
One of the other programs that we're running at the Sheriff's Office that the Sheriff has started is the prescription drug turn-in program.
Hospice oftentimes was taking care of terminally ill patients where they were issuing narcotics to the patient to keep them comfortable during their last days of life. And unfortunately, after our loved one passed away, those narcotics really, there was no way to destroy them. Oftentimes, pharmacies and hospitals and so forth were telling them to dissolve it in either water and put it into cat litter or coffee grounds and put them into our dump, or flush them down the toilet. Well, neither one of those are environmentally correct, because even though you put it in cat litter or coffee grounds, eventually it's going to be released into the waterway.
And it's been very effective, not only just getting narcotics out of the people's houses that don't want them there and not knowing what to do with them, but a lot of times what we'll have is we'll have burglaries and thefts of these houses, and the people that are abusing this drug are going into the houses and stealing the narcotics, and a lot of people just have the narcotic left over from a legitimate use, and this is a good way of people know where to go with it. We have this program, we have them all over the county, and they can just come in and turn them in, no questions asked.
It allows us to take those prescriptions and destroy them in an environmentally safe manner. We actually do it in a blast furnace at 2,000 degrees, and ultimately there's nothing that enters as far as fumes into the air. There's nothing left as far as residue once that process is completed. The Washington County Sheriff's Office Crime Prevention Unit will do security surveys both at residential and businesses throughout the county, including any of the municipalities.
It's free of charge to our residents in the county, no matter where they're at, and it gives them a chance to ask us questions one-on-one that maybe in a larger group setting someone would feel a little embarrassed to ask.
It can be at your convenience. Our crime prevention unit is very flexible. They can do it any time of day or night. or any day of the week, including weekends.
So we'll go around the outside just talking about window fixtures, outdoor locks, outdoor doors, how shrubbery, different trees, landscaping is affecting their home security. And then we come with the resident to the inside, taking a look at how windows are set up, if the locks are appropriate on the windows. We also conduct security assessments for our commercial businesses in the county. That includes retail establishments, warehouses. We've even had a couple assessments at farms and different agricultural areas.
The Yellow Dot program is sponsored by the Sheriff's Office. It's actually a national program, but it's a yellow star, the Sheriff's Office star, that is displayed in the rear window of a motor vehicle. And that alerts medical personnel, for example, that the operator has medical information contained within the vehicle. And so if they're in a collision, or if they've had some kind of seizure or medical event, the EMS personnel know to look for that card, and they can tell what type of medications that individual may be on, what's their medical background, do they have a history of seizures or of cardiac events and things of that nature. In addition to our Yellow Dot program, we also have refrigerator cards. And on the refrigerator, it's a magnetized card. It contains the same information as the Yellow Dot program, that being the types of medications that the individual who resides in the home may have, as well as any medical conditions they may have, if they're diabetic or if they have a cardiac problem and so forth. So that EMS responders who respond to the residents can look on the refrigerator very quickly and determine whether that information is there. It helps them to assess the patient and maybe come to a quicker diagnosis of what the issue may be. We decided that when the economy turned sour, that we needed to be a responsible portion of the county and to try to save tax dollars. And so what we did is we implemented technology such as the computers in our cars that will allow us to be able to run tags, for example, issue the citations, being able to do reports in the vehicle as opposed to coming back into the sheriff's office. So it keeps our personnel out on the street in their assigned areas and maintains sector integrity, as we call it, so that the citizens will see them more visibly than they did previously.